So the topic for today is simulations with Python. In this webinar, what we are going to talk about are the general electrical and control simulation that can be done with Python. Because everyone knows that Python is basically a programming language. It's a very powerful programming language. It's an interpreter-based language. So each line is basically executed one by one in a sequential manner. So Python has a lot of similarity with a tool called MATLAB. We all know that MATLAB is basically used for all the simulation purposes, but what many don't know is that Python can also be used to perform various simulation activities on electrical signal processing, communication processing, video processing, and even on the control system. Let's start with what is the role of simulation in engineering. So simulations have more than few uses in the engineering industry. In electrical industry, they are basically used to perform component level simulation to identify or localize or find the correct components under a given tolerant value. They are used to perform testing on software that goes on the embedded target. So this embedded target is basically the control unit for most of the electrical equipment. Simulations are used to mimic the real world environment and set the condition that can be replicated in the lab. And for example, if we talk about a grid connected inverter, what we have to mimic is the environmental condition for a particular day. We can use that data, how long the sun was out, when was the sunrise, when was the sunset. We can input that data into a simulation program and we can get the entire simulation for that day. They are also used to develop rapid control prototypes of any control hardware. And simulation is used to basically validate such rapid control designs with the real environment and real data. They are also used to perform overall software testing and sometimes system level testing. So let me give you one by one example from both electrical and automotive domain. So in electrical domain, as I said before, they are used to simulate. Simulation is basically majorly used to localize components that are used in any given project. They use simulation to perform testing of the embedded control systems. And electrical guys also use rapid control prototyping to develop test out new control methodologies, basically. Similar to this in automotive industry, if we talk about automotive, let's say a suspension system. Simulations are used to basically develop control of the suspension system and also to test those suspensions. So this rapid prototyping and the control testing, this all comes into picture. Let's talk about the current trend. So the current trend in the industry is model-based design. So it's basically a problem-solving method. It's nothing but it's just a mathematical and visual analysis to address all our complex control system problems. As the complexity of the control increases, it is more necessary for us as an engineer to be able to visualize the system. Model-based design helps us doing that. This helps us identifying problem points and have a more leaner and efficient control methodology. This is like model-based design is like widely used in the system in either one form or the other, or in one part or the other. This is not limited to control system. Let me clear that first. Model-based design is not only for control systems or only for power electronics or only for automotive. This is also used for communication, signal processing, and video processing as well. The idea behind model-based design is pretty simple. It's basically a four-step process. You start by modeling a plant. So the plant is something that we want to control. So in case of a simple motor control example, like if we have to control an induction motor, so in this scenario, a plant will be an induction motor. So what we do with plant is basically either we model it using a data-driven system, or we actually do a physical modeling of the plant. What the data-driven and what does the physical modeling means? So data-driven plant models basically use a technique called a system identification. How this works is that the data from the real world is taken, inputs, what are there for the inputs and what are there the outputs. Like in case of induction motor, it will be input currents, output voltage, the RPM. All this data is basically measured raw. And an algorithm is developed that determines a rough estimate of the model. So this rough estimate of the model basically tries to produce this exact input and output data that has been generated in the real world. This is then further refined and analyzed before using it as a plant. The second way is the physical modeling. Physical modeling is something like equation-based or mathematical-based modeling. The characteristics of the plant that we want to simulate are basically modeled by using known differential equation. So these differential equation becomes the plant model. So these can be further refined or simplified depending on the requirements that exist. We may not want the entire system to be similar. We want only parts of the system. That's why we only have only those differential equation into our plan. So these differential equation actually represent the actual components or elements from the actual plan. The second step is basically the analyzing and synthesizing a controller for a plant. So now in the first step, we have basically written all the dynamics for the entire model that needs to be controlled. Now the control for that part needs to be developed and synthesized. So this second step is where we do that. Now in the third step, that is simulating the plant and controller. Here the controller that we developed in the step 2 is attached to the plant model that we have made in the step. Then we see how the entire things work. So basically the entire thing should be stable and the control should be able to control the dynamics of the model that has been defined in the plan. So basically this is an iterative. So all the issues that are found in the controller are then fixed by going back to the step 2. All the issues that are found in the plant model are fixed by going back to step 1, then fixing the control for that, and then again testing it. So this is basically a loop. This also helps us identify that our control system that we designed basically meets all the required specification, as all the specification that has been defined in the plant model needs to be controlled by this control design. So this can be done in multiple ways. This plant and controller integration can be done in a multiple ways. It can be done in an offline system, like in a host system in a completely simulated environment, or it can be done in real time. Time response and the behavior of the entire system is analyzed real time by giving variant behavior and characteristics or including some disturbances and all this. When we do this in real time, we have a plant controller and we have an actual target connected to each other. So the actual target here represents our actual target device that runs this synthesized control or developed control. And this actually talks to the plant model and it's supposed to control the plant model in a way. So this becomes a true feedback loop where the changes in the controller output directly impacts the behavior of the plant. So this allows us to verify the software that we have developed. The fourth and final step is the deployment. So the code from the control model is usually generated and then adapted for the target and then pushed on the actual. And the plant model is actually replaced with an actual system. So in case of an induction motor control, the plant model that we were running in actually a hardware is basically now replaced with an actual induction motor. And we see that, okay, our control, that the code that we generated and the control that is there, it actually works. Fourth step is something that we put it in a real system and or put it in a hardware in loop system to actually test out how the control that we have developed is basically generic and it needs to be adapted for a target system. So there can be some bugs and some issues that can be introduced there. So hence this is an iterative system and back and forth we may need to go in the design step. The idea behind model-based design is that you do development, testing and verification all in a same environment or all in the same. This is the reason this is widely used in the software development as it follows the V model for the software development. The model in loop, software in loop, processor in loop and hardware in loop. When we talk about these simulations, they are basically like verification steps. So if you remember, the first step in the model-based design is to develop the plant model. Against this plant model, we have a controller made. This controller model is first developed in a simulation environment where it is verified with the plant model that the control system that we design actually works. So this first step of verification inside a simulated environment is what we call a model in loop. Here the control logic is the only part that is being tested. So we only test whether the control actually works with the simulated plant environment at the simulation level or not. The inputs and outputs of the controller can be recorded for further use for a verification stage at a later point in time. Once the control design is verified in model in loop, the code for the controller is then developed. This code is then imported into the simulation program. And then with the outputs captured in the previous step, we run the simulation environment along with the plant. Here, what we are checking is the software that has been generated for that same control logic is implementable or it works as expected. So this is the verification step of the control logic working with the targeted. So this is something that is called a software in loop. The next step that comes is the processor in loop. This is where the target code is made to run on the actual processor. This is then run in a closed loop with the simulated plant. The control logic, now the controller part in the simulation is now the target itself. This helps verify the target code on the target is running as expected and it matches with the value that we had in the simulation. So now after this processor in loop step, we can actually connect the hardware to the target and system can be seen in operation. The target is interfaced with the actual plant system and the thing should work as expected. But we don't usually do that. We add an additional step here. This additional step is called hardware in loop. So what does this mean? This means that we have a simulated plant model that runs on a real-time simulator instead of the actual hardware. So the advantage of this real-time simulator is it almost behaves as if there is an actual hardware. It almost behaves as an actual hardware. And this is actually then interface with the target. This creates a feedback loop. This step, hardware in loop, is basically done on a production target where iterations of the software can be tested and verified. The plant model runs on a real-time PC within real-time constraints. So if you have done some simulation in Simulink, say motor simulation or something like that, you might have seen that 1 second simulation or 2 second simulation actually takes like 15 to 20 minutes. But that is not the case with the real-time system. The 1 second simulation is supposed to finish within 1 second and the 2 second simulation is supposed to be finished within 2 seconds. This is called a real-time constant. So this step is like simulation of this hardware in loop is basically a simulation of actual hardware in real time. And hence it is basically called a hardware loop simulation. So this step typically requires a good physical plant model to generate a proper behavior. This is where we determine a trade-off between better accuracy and meeting a real-time requirement. This hardware is loop is where our physical modeling, how good we are at a physical modeling, comes into picture. One of the key elements of the plant modeling is the physical modeling of the actual. It requires a very good understanding of the requirement, the mathematical background, and we need to have a clear concept of both to make this kind. Physical model is nothing but just a basic set of equation. These can be done in Python. This physical modeling is basically a key focus and the key focus point for this, and the tool that we will use for the same will be Python. The other tools like MATLAB and Simulink can also be used, but right now for this, there are some industry leaders that are mentioned here. These guys have absolutely nailed the software and hardware for all the model-based design that I have mentioned before. These include MathWorks, DSpace, SpeedGoat, IBM, Typhoon, National Instruments, even SolidWorks and Texas Instruments have a great. So the DSpace, SpeedGoat, and IBM's Typhoon and National Instruments are basically leading hardware providers. They also have their own software, but their hardware is exceptionally great. The SolidWorks, Texas Instrument, and MathWorks basically provide the software part or generic software for this model-based design. Now, let's talk about what are the entry-level and senior level roles and responsibilities are there, or job opportunities are there. So as I said, like model in loop, software in loop, processor in loop, and hardware in loop are basically the 4 most used verification method for model-based design approach. So obviously the roles associated with this are hardware in loop engineers, verification engineer, model-based developer, embedded software developers, software engineers in test, lead engineers. Many companies hire for these. The entry level for this is like, these are all like starter, like after college, after graduate jobs. So all you need is a basic mathematical knowledge, domain knowledge, and somewhat programming experience to enter into these roles. When we talk about simulation engineers, they are basically multidisciplinary roles. And they are mostly engineering domain roles. So working as engineers, one should not be expecting themselves to be becoming a CEO, COO, or CTO, because these positions are usually for non-engineers or engineers with exceptional business background. So as an engineer, you will never reach to that level of role. But what you can reach is you can become people manager, product leads, tech leads, product owners. These are the top management roles that you can. This is where you can control the entire outcome of the product. You can divert the company's attention to some next gen products, or you can provide improvements to the product. Here you basically are, that is the most top you can go with an engineering degree or working in this kind of an engineering field. So how do you get into this domain? So as I said, the entry bar for this domain is pretty basics. So you need masters in any electrical field, or basic programming knowledge can get you into this domain. The most important skill here is only the debugging and problem solving skill, because you need to know how to debug the system. You need to know how you can solve the system with what you have available, and that's it. You can do pretty much anything in this domain once you have this. Let's talk about a case study. Let's talk about current control in a grid connected inverter. So what you can see on the screen is basically a block diagram of a grid tied solar inverter. So on the left, we have the input. The input is basically a PV array. So the sunlight falls on the PV array. We have an MPPT, maximum power point tracking logic applied there. So we get the maximum DC power out of it. Then we have a booster operation. So to boost up the DC link up to 750, 620, or whatever volt that we need. And from that DC voltage, we have an inverter operation. We convert this DC into AC. Then we attach it to an LC filter, and then we connect it to the grid. So there is no direct connection. Inverter cannot be connected to a grid without a. So you can see we have here three logics like MPPT logic, control logic, boost control logic, inverter control logic. This is all there. So what are the plant models in this scenario? So the plant model in this scenario is the PV array, the DC boosters that have power electronic switching components, and DC-AC inverters that have the power electronic switching components. The LC filter can also be simulated, and the grid can also be simulated. And we can just focus on the three logic, that is the MPPT logic, boost control logic, and the inverter control logic. But we are only going to focus on only one aspect, that is the. So we have a PV arrays. These need to be measured, because what are the voltages that are coming from the PV arrays, we need to measure that. Measurement system is there. Then we have a DC-DC boost system. Then again, we have to see what are the outputs from this. So these measurements, something that we will again have a focus on. Then we have a top capacitor, bottom capacitor. Then we have an inverter. Then we have a LC filter. Then we have a three-phase contactor. Then we have a grid side filter. And then we have a grid. So basically what you see here can directly be inputted hardware in loop simulation. So the measurement is something that we can simulate and provide it to the actual target that can actually do the boost. Then again, the output from that boost is fed into the simulator. Then the simulator will simulate the top and bottom capacitors and generate a DC link that will again loop it back to the actual target that will now do the inverter operation and inverter control logic. And then it will say, okay, these are my pulses, please generate these three-phase voltages accordingly. And then the simulator will again then generate a three-phase voltage accordingly. It will pass it through this LC filter. It will then have a three-phase contactor that is turned on and turned off by the actual target. And then it will again have a grid side simulated filter and the grid simulated grid. So this is how we can further expand it to it. So how our current controller comes into picture. So we have a PV array inverter. The inverter needs a current controller. Inside the inverter logic, there is this current controller. So what it does is basically takes the current output from the inverter, gives a feedback into the current controller, and it takes the voltage given to the grid side, takes it back to the current controller, and then it says to the inverter, okay, this is the amount of pulsing that you need to generate. So this current controller is something that we can actually develop in Python. We can test out the control logic in the Python, and then we can actually have a code there. Even we can do the simulation of the inverter in the Python, and we can do that. So this is the kind of thing. It's because it's all mathematical. This can be done in Python. So this is basically a small case study for the current control for the inverter.